My name is Kevin Marks, and I run this organization called the Lookback Library. Sometimes I refer to myself as a skateboard historian, an archivist, or a historic preservationist. I grew up in the Midwest in Kansas, and from when I first found Thrasher in September '86, that was my first magazine. And from there, that's when the collection started. But in this grander fashion, in regards to the Lookback Library, that's been since 2015. So much of my preference for print is a function of where I came from and how did I grow up learning about skateboarding, So I feel like I had a greater connection to my magazines because I felt so isolated in Kansas and didn't feel a part of the greater skateboard industry that was in California until I got out here in the 90s. It just all depends on how you learned about skateboarding, I think. We're going to take a little deep dive into the Lookback Library here today. Walk this way. You come into the back of the house. This is the master archive room where there's our best copy of everything that we have on hand. These 4 quadrants are all the trans worlds from issue 1 to issue 397. Thrasher over here, 1981 up to current up here. Big Brother, the skateboard mag goes. Got our slaps here. I'm a big slap fan. Australian and Japanese and German and English. 95 through 98, I worked for Tumieto as an international sales manager, and that opened my doors to getting exposed to a lot of the international magazines back then and working with the distributors that made those magazines. It started to snowball right around 2015 as far as working with other collectors to swap doubles. And then there was that light bulb moment where I was just like, well, instead of just doing this for launch, I could maybe turn this into its own nonprofit and do it on a larger scale. I got into this thinking about, well, okay, Thrasher has their archive. Transworld has a closet full of magazines. It's not very well organized, but they've got something, right? But there's all these other magazines that have gone out of business, and nobody would seem to be interested in everything, right? And so I want to have everything. I don't really know where we limit ourselves because we do Juxtapose, we do Vice magazine, we do some of these other arty magazines like Swindle and Vapors. If it kind of has its hand in skateboarding one way or the other, it's something that I wanna get into the archive. There's no way we'll ever be able to collect all the magazines. I mean, every few months I learn about a totally new magazine. I mean, it's old, but it's one I hadn't heard from Brazil, or, oh God, Peru had one from 3 years in the 90s. I don't think we'll ever get to a point where I'll be happy and just say, okay, we're stopping now. It's a never-ending journey. We get the question, how many magazines do we have in total, quite often, and I have no idea. Total number is almost impossible to calculate because magazines are coming in, magazines are going out. I'm very comfortable saying tens of thousands, but if you were to incorporate all the library, we have about 150 libraries around the world. We could be approaching over the 100,000 mark as far as total quantity of magazines. And, it's hard to give definites, but if you're just looking at overall quantities, definitely this is the largest collection in the world. There's some things in here that will ultimately come down into this room that we call the stacks, where all the excess stuff resides before we take it to a new library build. So down here, you've got full rows where there might be 10 or 20 of a certain issue of Thrasher. Everything, again, is in chronological order, but this is also the laundry room. There's mini ramp in here for over 15 years. As more and more mags started piling up around the house, it became clear that we needed to take the mini ramp out and create more space for the magazines to reside. It was a good ride while it lasted. Yeah, you want to go see the autograph room? Well, the Lookback Library has a handful of different purposes. First one I point to is the fact that we're building a archive of everything ever printed about skateboarding. We don't have one of everything ever made, but that we're working towards that. Purpose number two is to share a lot of the excess that we have through building libraries at skate shops and skate parks around the world. And this room has all the autographed mags. The main reason we get them signed is that they will make for unique items when we do exhibits. A lot of the mags in here have been donated by either professionals or people that worked within the industry, so that there's these extra special details. Not only are all the covers in the exhibit signed, but if you look closely at the mailing labels, they'll be from prominent people that have donated magazines. So we're just working on building out as extensive an asset as we can, so that when we do exhibits, whatever the theme might be, we'll have cool things to draw from and make those exhibits as unique and worthy as possible. From our excess resources, we do sell magazines from time to time. The older it goes, the harder it is for us to have excess to sell. And I don't really want to sell it. I should try to keep that copy for a library that we might not build till 2040. But will it allow us to buy a magazine we don't have? Will it allow us to go a little bit further in our trip for 2025 to pick up magazines and to build libraries? Does that honor our mission statement to, broaden someone else's collection, even though it may not have a public access? There's more and more complete sets out there, right? And there's a value to that to some degree. But yeah, we do offer a lot, and again, that's not a primary objective. We're not here to sell magazines, but we can, and we do need to from time to time, because space does become an issue. If you don't kind of understand the full program here, that would be a slap in the face, right? Got our collection of books over here. This is just kind of another sorting room. Yeah, I mean, you can, as we look around here, you kind of see how things have just kind of taken over. Like I'd said, the room out here is the master archive, but the master archive is starting to creep into here. I don't necessarily work alone. I have a handful of friends and associates, that are volunteers essentially. We have a large amount of partners across the world that house the libraries. We're always looking for people to help transport magazines, and we really need a lot of help getting magazines from overseas. The more of those types of relationships that we can develop, the easier it will be for us to expand our international collection, because we basically don't have much funding to pay for postage, to do swaps and whatnot. So I'm the primary person doing everything, but there's loads of good people out there, and if people can play a small role in it, they're happy to do that, and we appreciate it. Every year, usually in the fall, the Skateboarding Hall of Fame inducts a new kind of group of pros into the Hall of Fame. For the last couple of years, I've put together a covers exhibit. It's our way of kind of honoring the pros that are coming into the Hall of Fame by just showing people they're getting into the Hall of Fame partially because of their achievements, but one of those parts of their achievements are how many covers they've had. So, I feel like the industry overall is very short-sighted in not putting more efforts or money into the Skateboarding Hall of Fame, for one, or into my work. Our industry overall is very much in its infancy compared to a lot of industries out there, and And there just hasn't been much of an emphasis on where do we come from, what's important about what we're doing and how do we get here. So it's important to me that a lot of those figureheads at companies know what we're doing and that they can look at us as a resource. There's no one else really doing this kind of work, and it does have a major role for preserving skateboarding's history. We use these milk crates to sort and organize magazines, but the 2000 to 2004 of Transworld, you don't get too many issues in a crate because they're so thick. There's not much of a line between my personal space and the library. Like I sleep in the van so much that there's always magazines under me. I do try to keep the front of the house fairly free from magazines. Am I a hoarder? Maybe, borderline. Do I have a purpose? Yes. Does that make me not a hoarder? I don't know, I rest more firmly on the fact that we have a purpose. It's here for a reason. It is a resource, not just a pile of stuff that has no purpose. Here we are at 6s and 7s up in Rancho Penasquitos. Paul, as well as some of his partners, used to work at Transworld, so that's near and dear to their hearts. So now they'll be surrounded by it. Can take a peek at an issue whenever they want. Still evolving as far as what the end game is. I want to do this as long as I can where I'm involved, and this begins the 8th year of doing it, and it's getting to that point where I need to think about how it continues into the future. I don't really know what that looks like. I don't know who is going to carry the torch, if anyone, after I'm gone. I need to set up a foundation or a trust or figure out what museum will take at least the primary archive here, the one of everything. I don't have a day job. I'm semi-retired, I suppose you could say now. I've worked in the skateboard industry my entire life. I was pushed into going to college. My parents, they had a very, I think, different plan charted for me, or what they envisioned for my life. And I got a degree, but I didn't really ever feel like I clicked, like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. But I do feel very confident in saying that, yes, this is my life's purpose. And I'm just so fortunate to be, able to continue something that I started as a child. This has been my primary love in life, and this is my day job. I don't have a girlfriend. I don't have a wife. I don't have kids. I don't have a dog. I'm not actively seeking any of that. I don't feel like I'm actively sacrificing that. I feel like I'm lucky that I've found my purpose. It doesn't end, right? There's no 9 to 5. It's just like I do see a lot of the country through this, and are all those miles I drive part of my job, or is that just seeing the country, So like, how many magazines do we have? I don't know. How much time do I spend at work? I don't have an answer for you. It's a lot. It's just what I do, right? And what's most important? Am I happy? Yes, I'm happy.